On this week's NLB, Batman is back in a new Arkham game, Harrison Ford is back in a new sci-fi movie, and Alex Albrecht is back to talk about Legend of Korra Book 2. All that and more coming right up. Welcome to Newest, Latest, Best. I'm your host, Jeff Cannata. I want to thank everybody for watching the last few episodes. You guys have sent fantastic feedback to nlbfeedback@gmail.com. I really appreciate you taking the time. But right now, let's get right to the newest. The newest video game I've been playing this week is Batman Arkham Origins. It's the third Arkham game in the Batman series. This one, not done by Rocksteady. The developer handed it off to Splash Damage, but Splash Damage, to their credit, picks up without missing a beat. This is the Batman Arkham series you know and love. The best, in my opinion, third-person action fighting system ever is still just perfect here. You're beating up thugs, you're going through the city, you're solving crimes. There's a new story, very well written, very well voice acted. All the things you'd expect from a fantastic Batman Arkham game is still intact here. So why am I less than enthusiastic? This is a question I've been asking myself a lot as I've been playing this game. It's fantastic. This is one of the best game series of this generation, and it's interesting because this is maybe one of the last games on this current generation of consoles that I'll be reviewing as we move to the next generation. And I kept asking myself, what is missing? Why am I not more in love with this? It has everything. It has all of the stuff that you would expect from a great Batman game. It doesn't have anything particularly new. There's a new couple of gadgets here and there that are pretty cool. You get some electric shock gloves late in the game that are pretty awesome. Definitely a lot of new characters from Batman's Rogues Gallery that you're gonna have to fight and interact with, and that's pretty cool. And do I really need new in every iteration? I shouldn't. This is more of the great stuff I love. And here's the conclusion I came to. I think these games don't feel new and exciting because they're stuck in that Gotham City milieu. You're always in Batman's night. You're always in the dark, gritty city that is that classic, neon Batman look. You don't have a chance to go out and have it in a wildly different locale, and that is what kind of gets a little bit repetitive after a while. I love cruising around this city using my grappling hook to jettison myself and extending my cape and gliding around. All that stuff is still really fun. And this open world is even bigger than Arkham City was. It's just too darn similar to Arkham City. You still feel like you're in all the same locations, rooftops and seedy alleys. That's where Batman should be, I get it. But it just feels like more of the same because all of the sights I'm seeing are in the same time of day or night, as the case may be, and they're all that same sort of look and feel. If we could break Batman out into some new, interesting location, maybe get him to hang out in Metropolis once in a while, it might feel like a more exciting chapter in his story. This, not too much of an origin story, although we don't really need that again. It's just more of the great stuff you'd expect. So while I can wholeheartedly recommend the game, and I think that Splash Damage did a fantastic job with the title, I find myself hard to get excited about what is really just more of that same good stuff. All right, next up, my buddy Alex Albrecht stops in, and we check out the latest. Just like old times, I got my buddy Alex Albrecht.
This is not at all like old times.
This is kind of like old times.
You have a cube, magic cube with lights.
I can wear green if I want to. It's anything.
What?
I know.
Bam.
It's crazy. We're going to talk about Ender's Game. Ender's Game, the Orson Scott Card
seminal
classic
sci-fi book.
Yes, in
Love it.
1985 it came out.
And
I
by the
didn't even
way,
realize that.
did not read that book until I met you, jokers.
Really?
You were the guys that turned me on to it. They were like, you gotta read, you don't know how to read that.
Well, there are very few books in my life that I've read more than once. And
Interesting.
Ender's Game is one of them. I read it the first time when I was a kid, and it's the perfect book to read when you're a kid, because it's about a kid being awesome. But it is a great science fiction book, and it's been about to be a movie for a long time.
Yeah.
Every major Hollywood film director has been attached to it over the years, Spielberg and Ron Howard and you name it. It's interesting that Gavin Hood is actually the guy that made it real. Gavin Hood did Marvel X-Men Origins Wolverine.
That was a good title.
Yeah, yes.
Title better than the movie, maybe.
So we saw Ender's Game, a lot of build up to this. Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Ben Kingsley.
That's right. And a bunch of kids.
Yeah, Asa Butterfield,
Haley Steinfeld? Is that
Haley
her name?
Steinfeld is one.
From
No, Asa
No
Butterfield
Country-
is
or
the...
Not no.
There, we shoot my blood.
In the other Coen Brothers movie that she was in.
True Grit.
True Grit.
Love it.
Just like old times.
It's like old time.
All right, Alex, what did you think of?
So it's very interesting because the book has this really cool sort of two stories going on at once, right? The sort of like down with the sister thing happening, which is gone.
Completely
gone. And I realized, you saw Gravity and talked about it on the show.
Yes.
I saw Gravity, did not talk about it on the show.
Proceed.
One of the things that I found so interesting about Gravity was that in retrospect, I went, there's no B story.
Yeah.
That movie is an A story happening, and you watch it.
Well, there's a B story with whatever.
No. No B story. Maybe there's like a D story, and
I think
light.
Doesn't George Clooney tell the B story?
Yeah. There's sort of light, child in it. After having that revelation about Gravity, at the end of this movie, I went, "There's no B story."
Yeah.
It's the same. Is this like a new thing in Hollywood? It's like, just do the meats, and that's what I realized. I would say that I would be a person that would say I enjoyed it. It was nice to see. I thought the visuals matched up with what I had dreamed the visuals could be, which was awesome. Some of the fight scenes are like, I don't know what's happening. It's cool. Very Matrix like Revolution or whatever.
With the swarms.
Which is swarms of stuff, and you're like, that's cool. I mean, it's cool. I don't know what the hell's happening, but it's cool. And the sort of like end fixy, like how are we gonna solve this was cool. The problem is that there's so much about the book. They really were true to the book.
Pretty true, other than the stuff that they just completely left out whole cloth.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not like they were like, a little bit of it and it's gone. But the problem is that, there are times when things happened and I was like, whoa, that happened way too fast.
Definitely.
Like, what do you mean? Whoa, that was like half the book. You just went through half the book, like on a little
brings
board.
the team together.
Yeah, and then it was like, and now they're doing okay. And it was like, what? I want to see the first fight. I want to see training. Like what?
But it's also already a very long movie.
It is really long, and they condensed a lot of stuff. So there's a part of me that goes, this is a good movie, self-contained. I would recommend people who this is the other thing. It's hard. Ender's Game has a great ending. So that's
Which we're not spoiling.
We're not spoiling. But so
Right.
then the thing is, somebody comes up to you on the street and goes, "Hey, Jeff, what's up?" And you're like, "Okay." And
Happens every day.
and they say Ender's Game.
Yeah.
Read the book, watch the movie.
Well, read the book.
But really?
Yeah.
All right.
You
I'd
would
agree.
say watch the book?
No, I was wondering what you would say.
I liked the movie much more than I thought I was going to. I was really worried.
Interesting.
I was worried.
Yeah.
Because you felt the buzz was a little bit half-hearted, like they weren't sure about this movie.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, like with any movie where it's being carried by kids,
Yeah.
some of it's uneven with the kids, and it's hard to blame kids, but some of it, like the kid that they got to play Ender,
Yeah, great.
when he's in like full command
He
mode,
was the Hugo. He was in Hugo.
right.
Yeah.
I wondered why I
Asa
recognized him.
Butterfield. I think it's Butterfield, which maybe.
When he's being commanding and doing, I was like, yeah. But it's the sensitive time. It's the more subtle stuff that it's like, oh, it's a kid.
Yeah.
Kind of what we were talking about with the Avatar movie too.
Yeah.
Like the kids, but and I think the cardinal sin of this movie, especially as somebody who loves the book like I do. When I read the book, I wanted to play the zero gravity gun game.
Oh yeah.
More than anything.
And that was the big thing, is how do you make the battle room good?
And it looks good.
Yeah.
But it
doesn't feel fun.
Feel like the thing that I want to do.
It doesn't feel fun. Yeah.
Every kid walking out of that movie should like want that in their house. They should want to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's like the holodeck. It should be like the holodeck where you're like, please, somebody make that so I can go and be Sherlock Holmes for a day.
And in the movie, it's slow and it's kind of plodding. And while some of the strategic stuff is really cool and clever and well shown, it just doesn't look
the other
fun.
thing is he also gets to the solution of these problems instantly.
Yeah.
There's no,
Right.
interesting, I wonder, oh, that's a bad idea. Okay, well, I'll do this. It's like, instantly he goes, got it, let's do this. And you're like, okay, so he's a robot? Like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like.
But I think that the final battle, I found it to be so well done. And I was in it, and like everybody's working at the top of their game, which is exactly how I felt with the book, where it's like, he's doing it, they're doing it.
He's getting the best out of everybody.
Yeah. And I felt like
it's like the end of Dodgeball, the movie.
Okay. It had me at the end. It had me at the
100%.
end. Yeah, and I thought Harrison Ford was awesome.
Harrison Ford was great.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was sort of like, that was one of my big, because I've seen him in a couple things, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Cowboys and Aliens, I was like, oh boy, somebody needs to tell him to sit down. Not, whatever, there was a lot of issues with that movie, but, that was one of those things where I was like, is Harrison Ford gonna be able to do it? And I was like, damn, man, that is like, he's got the gravitas.
So is this a recommend for you?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I liked it, and I think people should give it a shot. If you haven't read the book, I think you would have a great time watching it. And if you have read the book, you'll miss some stuff, but it's pretty good and pretty faithful.
Didn't he break somebody's arm in the book?
Yeah.
And he didn't do that in this?
No. Well, all that stuff is left out, like all the side character stuff, and all him worrying about becoming his brother, and
well, that's sort of in there, but it's a little bit.
But you have to really read into it.
Man, they fly through that backstory.
Yeah.
It's like the first 20 minutes is like, and this happens, that happens, that happens, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and now we're doing it.
But I mean, it's almost like the Harry Potter movies to me, where it's all there. It's just the shorthand. It's the Cliff's Notes.
Yeah.
You
Although it's really interesting, which is why I asked that question about seeing it, because I wonder what it would be like seeing this movie not knowing anything about the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
and by the way, that's why the B story's not there. There's just too much A story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But really fun.
Yeah.
Looks great.
We both recommend it. I think it's a surprise for me. Surprise?
Yeah.
You surprised to recommend it, or you thought it was going to be great?
I didn't think it was going to be. I enjoyed it more than I thought, but I didn't think it was going to be bad.
Moving on. Well, I couldn't have Alex here and not talk about Legend of Korra.
It really, I could never be on camera and not talk about Avatar.
That's right. Avatar,
in some
of course,
form.
The very first Totally Rad Show TV show of the year.
Yes, and rightfully so.
And rightfully so. Very close to our hearts, Avatar. And then we talked about the season 1 of Korra, Legend of Korra, which was the next, not even the next generation, but 2 generations later of the Avatar story. And now Korra is back. Book 2, I guess they call it. Book 2 Spirits. We have 8 episodes of Book 2 Spirits that Alex and I have both watched. The first season of Korra was very self-contained. It was really her journey to finding the Avatar state.
Right, yeah.
As, in the same way that Aang kind of had that with Avatar, Last Airbender. And so in this one, we start off right here in season 2, like she's using the Avatar state to like win a race.
Yeah,
Anytime she wants the Avatar state,
she's like, because I'm awesome.
So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think of season 2, Spirits.
Well, it's interesting because I had forgot that it was supposed to be sort of a self-contained first season, and then, oh look, Nickelodeon wants a couple more seasons, and so now they're on to a whole new thing. I also made the mistake, I think, of watching the entire series of Avatar again in between watching Korra season 1 and Korra season 2.
Right. Well, you were enjoying that. You say you were watching with your wife.
Yeah, she saw the whole thing, and we watched the whole thing. So we've seen the whole thing, soup to nuts. And it was a while before. I mean, it had been a while before the new season. And so when it started, I was like, "Ooh, it's not hitting me like Avatar did, 2 months ago."
Yeah.
So I had that sort of like weird stigma thing. And then it took a while for me to kind of get into it. And then once I got into it, I was like, oh yeah, I'm digging this new updated time, which is what we talked about earlier, on TRS when we previously on another show. When we talked about it and how cool it was that it was sort of like coming into a different era of this, fictional place. And I really got to a point where I was like, yeah, this is really good. This is really good again. Mm-hmm. I like it. The last 2 episodes with the sort of like Bashki-esque backstory of how the Avatar was created in the first place was phenomenal.
Well, let me ask you about that specifically, and this may end up being specific enough to be considered spoilers for season 2. If you haven't watched this episodes 7 and 8, as Alex mentioned, Korra kind of,
although it's a side story.
It's like a 2-episode flashback.
Yeah,
and it's a flashback all the way back to the beginning, and I was reminded of Midichlorians. Of like,
really?
Maybe it's better we don't know.
You mean when it was happening, or
as
when
it was starting?
Over? Oh yeah.
I was like, maybe it's
too.
better we don't know how the Avatar came to be.
Right.
And the interesting thing about how they did it is that you could interpret it as being the literal, in canon version of how it happened, or you can interpret it as being like an allegory to how it happened.
Yeah.
Because it's so, as you said,
fantastical.
It's got a different art style.
Yeah.
It's got
all different
creatures,
characters,
fairy tale creatures.
Yeah.
It's so interesting and how they did it. You loved it.
I loved it. It was so satisfying. It was like this little sort of like haiku, if you will.
Yeah.
About the Avatar, and I think you're totally right. I mean, some of it had sort of been hinted at, where you'd seen certain things that then came back, and it's sort of. I get what you mean, because when it did start, I was sort of a little bit like, I don't know if I need
We don't need to know. We don't need to know. Let it be mysterious.
Yeah.
And especially like walking up to the lion turtle, and he goes, "Ding, you have a thing," and I was like, "Oh no, please don't make this be like."
Yeah.
Ding, you have the power inside you. Like what I loved about Avatar was like you have to train and become one with the elements and all that stuff.
And you got all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was sort of like they were like slap happy with their powers until they were like, the one guy was like, I'm gonna train and live in the whatever. I don't want to spoil too much of it. There was that's a word that I just use all the time. All the time. There was a character, I'm going to try to do this as non-spoily as possible, that I fell in love with. First, highly annoying. Second, love. Then, that was my best Dan Trachtenberg impersonation, by the way. Then...
Is it the Nanook of the North guy?
No, that guy's cool.
Okay.
It's part of the instigation of that. And it's now sort of turned out to possibly not be all good. And I'm very disappointed with that.
Oh, yes! You know why you love
favorite.
him? You know who does his voice? I didn't check this to be true.
Oh.
But I think it's the dude from all the Christopher Guest movies.
Which one?
I'll have to find his name.
Well, who was he in any of the movies?
He's always the very stern guy who talks like this. He's always very stern and good hair.
Blue eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, David something.
You get lost in them.
Yeah, no, yeah. Oh my God, that would be perfect.
I'm almost sure that
I didn't realize
that guy's. You are right. That character is awesome.
I want him everywhere all the time, and I'm worried.
Valen, something.
Well, I was trying to kind of not spoil the fact that he,
whatever.
But whatever. Jizzabut. Jizzabut. So Jizzabut, and then but I don't like where Jizzabut's going. If you know what I'm saying.
I hear you.
Because I was like, no, Jizzabut. You're my favorite Jizzabut.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then there was something else. Oh, and J.K. Simmons, I didn't know is
Aang's son?
Yeah, the Airbender guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I was looking at the credits. I was like, oh, I wonder who he is.
Yeah. Just the fact that you have a 2D animated television show in HD that looks as good as this, it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
All the combat sequences are so imaginative and awesome, and they keep coming up with interesting ways to use the
bending and the other things.
I'm a little annoyed by the two sisters, or not, one's a boy.
Two sisters.
You know what I mean? These chicks, the goth chicks.
Yeah, so here's my issue. And this is why I think one of my big issues was, boy, look, it's Avatar.
Yeah.
Especially having just watched, you've got the evil, the leader of a bending community that's now bad and going to try to take over the world. His offspring is now chasing the Avatar, trying to get the Avatar. You know what I mean? Like, it just started really feeling you know, like, oh,
Formula.
they're just picking the stuff that worked from the Avatar.
I mean, I like the fact that there's this like Civil War thing. That's really interesting. I mean, it's
Well, they've
not...
always sort of been that sort of weirdly, subversively political vibe, which has always been sort of cool.
But you love it. You're hooked. You're sticking with it.
Yeah.
Me too.
It's freaking Korra.
It's freaking Korra, and it's so awesome that there's more of it.
Yeah.
Mora
Yeah.
Korra.
Mora Korra.
All right, it's time to send you into next week with some best bets. And my best bet is a fantastic webcomic that you should absolutely be reading. It's called Table Titans, and it's by Scott Kurtz. And it is about one of the things I love in this world, Dungeons and Dragons. It's about a group getting together every night and playing Dungeons and Dragons. They have a couple of different adventures so far in the run of this webcomic. And Scott does an amazing thing. He draws these great group of characters in their living room, hanging out, playing Dungeons and Dragons, and then once they go into the game, we see these same exact characters, but with their appropriate garb on. You know, the rogue has his rogue gear, the cleric has his cleric gear, etc. In that world. So it has that wonderful transition between the fantasy world and the real world. It's really funny, it's really charming. The adventures that they go on are cool, and he manages to pull off that thing I find amazing with webcomics or comic strips in general, where you have this webcomic that comes out every Tuesday and Thursday. You have 3 or 4 panels, and every one of those, just 3 or 4 panels, is a self-contained story beat that has a fun punchline, and then they all add up to something even cooler, a larger arcing story, which is just magic in my opinion. Fun, charming, free. Check it out at tabletitans.com. Well, guess what? Scott Kurtz himself manages to stop by this week on this show to give you his best bet. And I also have a friend of mine, Andrea Rene, and she'll have a best bet for you as well. Check them out.
Hey, Jeff. I'm here to tell you about a book, a very important book, to me at least. It's by Carl Sagan, the very famous and now deceased astronomer. And for your younger audience members, Carl Sagan was kind of like my generation's Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's kind of taken up, I feel he's kind of taken up Carl's kind of role in this space of championing science. But during a very particularly dark time in my life, when my mother passed away back in 1996, a friend of mine gave me this book, and it's by Carl Sagan. It's called The Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. And in this book, Carl Sagan kind of takes a look at what humanity has kind of put forth as the fantastic. So we're talking about UFO sightings and alien abduction stories and psychics and mediums and crop circles and all these amazing things that we kind of want to believe are real, like the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. And he goes through it with a skeptic's point of view, and he debunks it all. I mean, he basically points out unflinchingly that these are fictions that we as a society have invented. The really great part of this book is that he takes it a step further. Instead of just debunking these things and saying, don't believe in UFOs and alien abductions because that's dumb, he kind of looks at it with the viewpoint of, I also want to believe in these things. I would love to believe that these magical things and these fantastic things are happening around us because I'm excited about that kind of stuff. It was, for me, it was a very uplifting book, and I can't, it was a great introduction to Carl Sagan as well, which I think would be great for any of your viewers to be introduced to Carl Sagan if they haven't already. So, Demon-Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. Sounds like a heavy title, but it's really a great read. And it's by the now late Carl Sagan, and I can't recommend it enough.
Hey everyone, what's up? Andrea Rene here. Thanks for having me on the show, Jeff. I'm still missing my 2 ends 1 team t-shirt, by the way, so you better get that to me. But what I'm really here for is to give you guys a couple of quick recommendations. So what I'm loving right now, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Now, if you guys listen to Weekend Confirmed, you know that I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, and I was super excited for the launch of this game, and they have not disappointed. It's got open world sailing in the Caribbean. You can hunt sharks, you can go underwater diving, you can participate in naval battles, and the core gameplay has brought back some of the tenets of the franchise that I really loved. Stealth is back in a really big way. There's lots of climbing that we got like in AC2 and AC Brotherhood, and I really am liking Edward Kenway. He's kind of like this swashbuckling, free-spirited asshole kind of a character. I'm not too far into the main campaign yet, but I'm really interested to see where they take it. Not to mention the Total Recall-esque stuff of the Abstergo Entertainment present day. I mean, come on, you guys totally thought Total Recall once you got to see what's happening there, right? I'm not the only one. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, but the other thing that I wanted to recommend to you before I go is a really cool Metroidvania-style platformer from Midnight City called Blood of the Werewolf. Now, I first saw this game at PAX Prime, and I mentioned it on WC, and it is out on Steam now, and it is super fun, and it's just in time for Halloween. Now, if you guys were fans of platformers that were super challenging, time-based, all about skill and exploration, then you definitely are going to love this game. It features a female protagonist named Selena, who is a werewolf, but you play both in her human form and in her werewolf form, depending on what part of the level you are in, which is really cool. I highly recommend you guys check it out. In fact, I have a free Steam code for it. So the first person to tweet me at Andrea Rene saying, "I heart NLB, give me Blood of the Werewolf," I'll give it to you on Twitter. Thanks, Jeff, for having me on the show, and hopefully I'll be on again sometime soon.
That does it for this episode of NLB. Thanks to Andrea Rene. You can see her reporting all the video game news that's fit to the web. Does that work? Fit to print. We're in a new world now, fit to the web. Andrea Rene over at Escapist Magazine. Also, thank you to Scott Kurtz and my buddy Alex Albrecht for stopping by. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Newest, Latest, Best. And until then, do your best. That's so weird. Today, I was walking down the street and I thought of, this sounds stupid, but I thought of Pamela Anderson for the first time in years, and I was like,
That sounds stupid.
whatever happened to Pamela Anderson?
She's still like a thing.
She's not a thing. She's like laying low and getting her breasts reduced, isn't she?
I would be shocked if that's what's
This
happening.
is your credit scene. Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Something's happening.
we're starting.
All right.
Okay.